spiritual awakening and how it led to self-discovery. And if you are going through spiritual awakening, you need to listen to this episode. Her name is Roxanne Chaput, and I hope that you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. All right, Roxanne, I am so glad that you are here to shine. And I love the subtitle, The Angel of Light. And we all need that in this world today. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me. It's just such an honor. I'm looking forward to this today.
Same here. And I'm also excited for everybody to hear your knowledge, wisdom, your wisdom of knowledge of everything that you know. But I really love to hear how people got into this business of spirituality and being the angel of light that you are, because it doesn't happen overnight. So can you tell us how your spiritual journey started?
Yes, absolutely, Michelle. Thank you so much for asking about my story, because I think we all have a story and it's just so important to be able to share that. And ever since I was a little girl, I just had this profound knowingness that I was being called to serve. And I didn't fully understand what that was going to look like. However, I knew that I was going to be serving humanity at a great level. And I remember asking, family and friends and loved ones, do you have this feeling that you're being called to serve, this burning feeling? And they're like, well, no, but, I know I want to be like a lawyer or a doctor. I was like, well, that's amazing. But it was something a little bit more profound to that. And I had a very interesting childhood. It was filled with a lot of love and a lot of growth and a lot of lessons that came in childhood. And I just remember every time I went through some more challenging emotions, really experiencing more of the denser emotions, I would just feel this guidance and like this bubble of support, this shield of support that was surrounding me and just telling me, keep going, you have this, keep going, keep, your optimism, keep your positivity. That's part of your essence, like I always felt that vibration and that emanation coming from me and around me. And I couldn't really fully vocabularize that or really understand what that was. And I remember asking people, like, do you feel like something's around you? And, they're like, no. And then there were some people like, yeah, like I do feel sometimes that there's energy around me. But anyways, I couldn't really resonate with too many people along my path. And I was really trying to understand, why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I here to do? And I went through life and, throughout my entire journey, I would have people coming to me, even as a small child, adults coming to me, asking me for wisdom, asking me for guidance, telling me their whole life story and, what path should I take? What direction should I go in? And I remember, my family and my mom and my parents being, awestricken and just being like, wow, like you should really be a psychologist or, a social worker or something like that. And that just never spoke true to me. And I ended up going through life and I experienced a multitude of unhealthy relationships. I was just in this place where I didn't understand my self-worth. I, pushed a lot of myself back because I couldn't resonate with anyone. I couldn't be my most authentic self with anyone because I didn't feel like it was being accepted. And it wasn't that I was, forgetting about it. It just, I wasn't bringing it to the light. And I ended up in this marriage, which I know was a very powerful lesson for me. And I know that it was created for me to have these incredible lessons that I was gifted. But it was a very, very unhealthy marriage where I ended up leaving with my 3 beautiful children. And when I was pregnant with my daughter, who was my last child, I remember being pregnant with her and I just had this feeling that having her was going to change the direction of my life drastically and that it was going to end my marriage. I had this epiphany come to me as I was driving one day, pregnant with her in my womb. And it was just this clear vision of what was going to happen. And sure enough, that's what happened. So I think when I had my daughter, I had a lot of realizations of what I wanted to teach her and what I wanted to teach my sons of how, you treat your partner and what love really looks like and, what healthy connection really looks like. And when I left, I had experienced shortly after 4 near-death experiences simultaneously, one after the other. And which really, with each near-death experience, it just brought me that much closer into understanding myself more profoundly, asking more riveting questions. For myself, it really started more at the intellectual level of, really working at the center of intelligence of my hub, of really understanding my mind. Why did I have the limited beliefs that I had? Why did I have the conditions? Why did I feel that I was living somebody else's life and not living my authentic truth? So I really started having, that self introspection and really trying to understand, what do I want? What do I want for my life? How do I want to serve? Am I happy in the relationships that I'm in? Am I happy with the friendships that I have? Am I happy in the career that I'm in? Am I happy with where my life is heading? And the answer to all of that was no. So it really brought me into this more profound place of asking some really deep and challenging questions, because as humans, we don't want to shift. We don't want to change. We fear change, and naturally so, due to our reptilian brain. So it was just this beautiful dance of really having so much curiosity and so much compassion and grace to understand myself more deeply. And as I was healing that aspect of these beliefs and of the mind, and, allowing my mind to be in its creative senses and then also be in its construct, what we refer to as like feminine energy and masculine energy within us, it was just opening and expanding things so much more beautifully for me. And then what ended up happening after that, about a year and a half doing that body of work, I started really being called to work in the emotional body. So really trying to understand, why haven't I processed my emotions? Why haven't I cried in, 10 years and, allowed myself to feel anger and frustration without guilt, you know? So really understanding what was happening in my emotional body. What did I need to feel? What did I need to release out of my body? Because what happens is when we hold on to these emotions, these energetic motions, they hold patterns and they hold place within our cellular body and not just at the cellular complex. So it's being held in, your cells and, causing disease, and causing, that discomfort that's happening. So I really needed to understand that. And then what ended up happening from there is that I was called in dream state for over 4 months straight from my ancestors, asking me to come and step into the next body of work. And I didn't understand exactly what that dream was going to look like, but I was being called, and she would come to me. I mean, we can go into description of the dream, but I know that we have, a short time here. But the dream was powerful. It was beautiful. I didn't fully understand her message at the time. So I had brought it to a elder in our community who is a shaman as well, who is one of my elders. And I was telling him of my dream, and he told me she was calling me to the land to come and heal, and that I was meant to be a healer. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And, just he said, it will come to you. It will come to you. And I was like, oh no, like I want to know, like Google, Google, tell me something. But I had to really be patient with that. And really, that was the lesson that came with that as well. And I remember hymning him the song and singing the song that she was singing to me. And he had taken a step back and he was like, oh my goodness, like we haven't heard that song in Healing Circle for over 100 years. He said, my grandfather used to hymn that to me, but as like a bedtime, a bedtime chant. And I was like, I just had goosebumps all over my body. So I was like, okay, like what am I being called to do here? And I remember taking that dream, and I had asked another, beautiful spiritual mentor that I had who had no connection to the elder. And she had said the exact same thing. So I just really had to be patient on what I was being asked to do. And then one morning I had that clarity, and I woke up and I knew exactly where I needed to go, what I needed to do to heal. And it was such a beautiful and profound experience. Like my life had pivoted from that moment. It was like this catalyst moment that it reconnected me to my soul. It reconnected me to my emotions, to the truth of why we're really here, what life really entails. And it was like the animal kingdom, the elements of like the water, the fire, the wind, the earth all came together to support like this beautiful knowingness. So it was just really profound. So from at that point, I was like, okay, like if I can do this for myself, can I help, someone else? Can I serve as a guide to someone else to help them heal themselves? So, I was asking anybody around me, family, friends, like, do you want to come on this journey with me? And everyone said yes. And, nobody was the same after that. So then I knew. I was like, okay, this is like the next body of work. And then from there, I really started working at the physical element of the body, moving the memories out of the body, moving the tissue, releasing the trauma, releasing the thoughts, the wounds, everything that happens at the fascia level, and just releasing so that my body could fully heal.
Oh my goodness. I love your story because I think a lot of people will resonate. It won't be the exact same story, but just listening to the spiritual world, just knowing what you need to do and following that. Because, like what you said in the beginning, we have that fear of, well, what if it doesn't work out? I'm going to follow this dream that I have, but what if it doesn't work out? But you need to also turn that around and say, what if it does? You get to see your soul essence. You get to see what the purpose is in your life.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that is
Absolutely.
a beautiful story.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
and it was such a big shift for me, and I think the biggest shift for me were a lot of the relationships that I had that I allowed to naturally dissipate, that I no longer felt resonance with. However, there was this component of, we're taught that we need to have this type of career. I was working as an executive at the time. There's a lot of safety that comes with that, knowing that you can provide for your family. And I was a single mother at the time. So it was like that shift, but then having, my parents know that this was also my calling and to step into that, like that support system. But obviously they had their own hesitancies due to their own, belief systems and constructs that they had within them. But knowing like, wow, you have the courage to just go for it. And yeah, hell, it was scary, like it was scary to
Yeah.
make the jump, but it's the things that you fear to step into that are the most magical things that happen in your life.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you said it so well because the spiritual awakening, people go, "All right, I'm having a spiritual awakening and it's gonna be beautiful." No. I mean, it's beautiful in the end, but you've gotta do that healing, you gotta feel into the past experiences that you've had, you've gotta reprogram
Yeah.
all of this stuff, and it takes time and a lot of work. I know whenever yeah, I love what you said that whenever you're raised, programmed to get a job, make money, and do a day to day 8 to 5. And I got into that. I had a spiritual awakening in my early 20s. Spirit was saying, "We want you to come work with us." And I'm going, "I'm not ready." Plus the fact that it scared me. Because, again, growing up in a Christian home, I had to look at my beliefs and everything. But I still used my intuition to help the kids I was working with as a school teacher. And then and of course, I waited older. At least you said yes early, which I love. It came where it was a calling. It does feel like a calling, like you feel so peaceful with it. And you know that if you say no, you miss all that wisdom and you miss that soul, getting to really know yourself within your soul. So much kudos to you for stepping up. And like you said in the beginning, you don't have anybody around you to support you, but it's almost like your energy brings in those people that will support you and surround you for what you need to do next. And my dear, you are doing so much right now. I looked at what you were doing. I'm going, how does she have time for everything? So what I want to talk about first is your podcast. So you have Soul to Soul podcast. I love this cover
Thank
because
you.
it does show angel light and the different colors and everything. So what inspired you to say, you know what, I need to go ahead and have this podcast?
It was so funny, Michelle, because I had no intention of ever starting a podcast. And I was guessing, I was being asked to be on podcasts. And then I was eventually introduced to a platform called Podmatch. And it was just like this alignment of beautiful hosts that I was just being connected to. And it wasn't even about the conversations as much as the message. It was the connection and the
Yes.
networking. And one day, Spirit, I woke up in the morning, they're like, you need to start a podcast right now. And I was like, podcast right now. Wasn't in my thoughts or anything like that. So I was like, okay, let's do this. And within a week and a half, 2 weeks span, it was completely started. Episodes were recording, everything was done. So I was like, oh my goodness, okay. And then the people that I met through the podcast and the learning and the teachings that I've learned from having and hosting was so profound and so incredible. I'm getting goosebumps right now because that was the reason, that was the purpose. And to be able to share that with community and however that resonates with them and their own inner truth, at least to have that curiosity for them to find their inner truth and to listen to their inner guidance and their soul voice. So it was just magic.
Yeah. And again, I love it. The calling was there and you said yes.
Yeah.
I'll do it. And it was uncomfortable for you, but you're doing what you need to do. And like you said, to get the message for everybody, because nowadays, where are you going to find it? Everybody's on the internet. So this is perfect. All right. So my dear, you also created this retreat. Okay. Is it the Illumination
Retreat.
Re- Retreat? Yes. And so you created this. And so tell me what your inspiration is behind that and what your objective is. Why a retreat?
Absolutely. And this is so beautiful because Spirit called me to this as well. And I knew that this was in my vision path. I had seen this for quite a few years. Even when I was a young child, I saw the travel, I saw the connection of community. I didn't understand what that was going to look like. However, I did see this kind of coming to fruition. And when Spirit nudged me, it was one morning I woke up and I had met this beautiful, beautiful woman. And she was like, well, why aren't we doing retreats? Like, why aren't you doing a retreat? And I was like, well, can I? Should I do a retreat? And what is this going to look like? So I took a lot of time. You know, I really intently curated something that was going to be very powerfully meaning and life changing. And I don't mean changing for a weekend and then reverting back to old patterns and behaviors and cycles, something that
Right.
was going to be a catalyst moment that would naturally have multitude of moments of spiritual awakenings in that moment and being held in a container community that was able to hold and facilitate and to help transition and guide through those moments of awakening. And the purpose of it was to be able to be a multi-dimensional healing place where we would bring in, the breath that we so really underappreciate because our breath is so powerfully healing. From what we know just scientifically from studies is that, it regulates our pH levels, it resets our entire nervous systems, it helps the whole neurology of who we are. There's so much expansion and so much healing. It can activate even our pineal gland. So there's so many things that can happen with just our breath. So it was all about what can we curate? What can we hold in a container that can help somebody heal the multidimensionality of where they are and then be able to take that practice and move it forward once they get home. And I was very intentional of who I chose to step into that space with me. It was people that we would be able to bring neuroscience in along with the spirituality, the traditions, the spiritual practices, the rituals, and be able to facilitate such a beautiful space for true transformation, illumination of the soul.
And how long is this retreat?
7 days.
Okay, so they're there for 7 days. And how many times do you offer it in a year?
Typically, we do one time a year, but we are looking to increase that to twice a year. And then what we also have is we have concierge services. So our concierge retreat under the Illumination Retreat is if you have a group of people that you want to go through this journey with, you select the people that you want to be held in the space with, and then you choose the location of where you want to go, and then we curate everything around that. So it's
Oh,
really
wow.
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. And there you go. How you're educating people and also uplifting people and knowing how to heal. And it's, to me, it's going to change the frequency of our world, one step at a time, right? One person at a time.
One person at a time. And, it's so funny because
Yeah.
as light workers, we were just like, we want to change the world. But and then the reality, in that moment, the impact to one person changes at least a minimum of 10 people around them when we,
Right.
include the vibration and the frequency that they emit, the epigenetics that shift and transition. There's so many beautiful things that happen. But at the end of the day, we can't hold energy just for the entire world with one being. We have to come together as community, as collective, and we all have a beautiful place to play in that. And it doesn't mean that we're serving all at a global level. It doesn't mean that we're all healers. It means that maybe, being the best mother that you are and nurturing, your children in the way that you are, or maybe it's nurturing, agriculture or the animal kingdom, or art, music that speaks to the frequency of a soul, even, in a canvas or even in the vibration of a, vibroacoustic. So it really
Right.
is just dependent on what you're being called, and are you listening to that call and to that inner truth of your true creation?
Oh, I absolutely love it. Um, Whenever you were talking about, you felt like, with your dream about becoming a shaman, what does that consist of? Because are there different kinds of shamans? Because I'm not real familiar with that. In the way that they practice. Can you kind of explain how you practice?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, there is a differentiation between shamans, just like, and I will preface here because some people don't fully understand what a shaman is. So, a shaman is, when we look at 200,000 to 300,000 years ago, these were the doctors, the spiritual practitioners, the energy healers, the medicine doctors of their tribal communities. So, every place in throughout the world had tribal communities. This is not specific to North America or, South America. This has happened throughout the world. So these were their doctors. So shamans are still here today. So we do have traditional medicines, and then we have modern medicine, which, can work hand in hand together. So, what I do in terms of my practice, I don't typically use any type of plant medicine. It doesn't mean that I don't call on the plant medicine. So, I will use the sages, I will use the pine, the cedars, I will use the context of whatever that soul is asking that I bring in, and that wisdom is being called by the plant. I will utilize that to help facilitate the expansion that is needed for that person. However, the majority of what I do is multidimensional healing. So I do cellular healing. So I don't just go at, the energetic level. We go to the centers of intelligence throughout all of the chakra systems, and we work through all of the brains of the body, because I believe that, and I believe it will be proven in theory, that these are brains, just like we've proven what's happening in the heart is a brain, the gut is a brain. I believe that every center of intelligence within us, our chakra system, they will be proving that to be our brain. So we work at all of these fundamental levels, and we get, not just at the spiritual and energetic, but we're working first with the centers of intelligence, the mind. Why do we believe the things that we do? Where are the generational patterns that we need to release and let go? Because when we're using our chakra system, as our solar plexus is connected to the solar system, and that's how we channel and receive a lot of information on top of our crown channel. What happens is that when we get that knowingness of that intuitive knowingness, and then it filters through all of these chakra systems that have been through wounding and trauma and things of that nature, we go down to our sacral, we go down to our womb, and it tells us, we can't create this, we can't do that. It's not just creation of life, it's creation of dreams and visions. And then we go down to our root, and then, there holds the lineages, the past, traditions. Why do we believe that we don't deserve generational wealth? Why do we believe that we don't deserve healthy love? So there's so many things that happen throughout the chakra systems. Then we go up to the heart, right? Where the heart holds so much trauma, so much wounds. If you're a healer, you know that we're usually working a lot in the heart space. And then our throat, right? Where was our power of advocacy? Why do we believe that we can't step into our voice? So there's so many things. And then you have the mind, where it's the ego center, right? Where it's natural and it's good for us to have that ego. But then the reptilian brain takes over and says, you can't do this, you can't do that, don't do it, don't do that. So then we don't follow that guidance. So we heal all of these components before we ever even get to the emotional body. And then when we get to the emotional body, we go to the physical, and then we go to the spiritual energetic.
Wow. Now, can you do this over the internet, or do you have to be in person?
No, I do a lot of this virtually.
Yeah.
It's profound. Energy is energy. Everything is vibration and frequency. My vibrational work I do in person. I love more in-person connection just because I love feeling like the warmth of the energy. I feel the
Right.
energy even virtually, but it just feels a little bit not as dense. It feels a little bit lighter. But I do prefer having in person, but a lot of the work that I
Yeah.
do is virtual.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, a lot of people are shocked. They go, you can do this online. And it's like exactly what you said. Energy is energy.
Yeah.
It's not that you're going through the screen, you're going through the quantum realm and everything.
Yeah, and everything is
Yeah.
vibration and frequency, right?
Yeah.
To our homes, to the mics that we're speaking into, to our telephones,
Right.
everything has soul resonance if it came from the earth. The earth is soul. So it doesn't matter how it was created, it has energy and frequency. That's just science.
Wow. All right. So we're going to kind of switch things.
Yeah.
If somebody came to you and said, I need something inspirational, what could you tell them?
I would say the first thing I would say is that you need to believe in yourself and trust in yourself and listen to yourself, because all of your answers, all of your healing lie within these bodies. And when we have that knowingness of listening to ourselves and following our guidance and listening to our soul, there is this beautiful thing that happens is that we surrender and we trust where we're being guided, where we don't feel like we have to control every next step, every aspect of our life. That is not why we are here. We are here to be. We're human being, not human doings. So I think that's really important, is that we learn to listen to our soul. We learn to listen. Where am I being guided? Is my body asking me to rest today? Is it asking me to flow today? Is it asking me to be in my thoughts and my feelings and my emotions? Or is it asking me to be in the construct of doing something, of being active and honoring that?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Are you ready for the last question?
I am.
All right. So let's bring the wheel. See what the last question. I'm going to go ahead and close it and spin. For some reason, it's froze for a reason.
Oh, this is a good one.
Oh, invention.
Oh, so what I would invent?
Yeah. So, what would you invent and why?
Teleportation.
Oh, I love it. Why?
I just feel that it would be beautiful that we weren't separated by land, that we could just, transport ourselves to loved ones whenever we chose to.
Oh, I love it. And you know what? It kind of the things that we were talking about today. I'm wondering, will there be a day where we can transport
I
ourselves?
believe there.
Instead of needing a machine,
Yeah.
because it reminds me, I don't know if you, because I grew up watching Star Trek.
Oh, I love it.
And they had this teleport where, they would do it to the ship and everything. And, they had the communicators, and those communicators became cell phones. And that's before even cell phones came to be. So you just never know where it leads. Human invention is just the awesome thing. So, Roxanne, where can everybody reach you?
Yeah, anyone can find me on social media under Roxanne Chaput, Soulpreneur. I'm everywhere on social media, and through our website at roxannechaput.com or the illuminationretreat.com. You can find, everything about us there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for, providing all of the spiritual wisdom that we need to hear now, because it is so timely. And And I want to thank everybody for listening. So if this resonates with you, please share it with everybody that you know, because it's like Roxanne said, it's really getting the word out. That's why podcasts exist, is so that we can contemplate and talk about ideas. For this week, what I really want you to think about is how you can find your authentic self. Have you been called to do something spiritual? Or are you to get out that comfort zone that you were in? So, really think about where your soul is leading you in life and whatever that looks like for you. So, I'll see everybody next week.